I know my hair looks crazy and everything, but this video has been on my mind for forever, to the point where I couldn't sleep last night. So I feel like we just kind of have to get in when you fit in. 'Cause at the end of the day, this video is really not about my looks, but to help another mom feel like they're not by themselves in their postpartum journey if they're dealing with anything that I dealt with. So postpartum's been hard. I had my baby in May, and honestly, life was pretty smooth. Delivery was pretty much straightforward or whatever. But 3 months after having her, I found out that I was experiencing postpartum hyperthyroidism. And for those who don't know, I was diagnosed with I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism about easily 10 years back. And that was well managed. It was well managed even when I had my daughter. But after delivery, or when I had her, even when I was pregnant with her, it was pretty straightforward. I was on my medication, on my Synthroid. Never had to change the dosage throughout the whole pregnancy, which is not usually the norm, but that was definitely my case. But when I had her, I decided to breastfeed, which is gonna be a very important part of this story. I breastfed her solely, no supplementations, nothing. And 3 months afterwards, I ended up going to the hospital. Oh, no, sorry, let's go back. For my postpartum checkup, I found out my blood pressure was high when they were checking me. Everything else was going good, but my blood pressure was high and it wasn't coming down, which is not my norm at all. So they had me go to the emergency room, and my baby could have been 6 weeks old. So they sent me to the emergency room, and because I know I have hypothyroidism, I asked the nurses there to give me to check my blood for my TSH, which checks your thyroid, to see if that was off, because I know if your thyroid is off, so is everything else. And they never did it. But being as nervous as I was, just because my blood pressure was like 160 over 100, I was just help me. I just want to be a new mom and be there for my baby. And I went to they gave me blood pressure medication, came home, took the blood pressure medication once or twice, but my husband and I felt like the numbers were getting a little bit on the too low side, so we decided that I should stop taking it, and I was fine afterwards. My blood pressure stayed in normal range, 110s over anywhere between 176 and 180. And then 2 months after that, so let's say we're now in July, August, and I go to the emergency room again. Right after breastfeeding my baby. I ended up feeling super weak. Couldn't get up, dizzy, just out of it, heart palpitations, all of the things. So I checked my blood pressure, and my blood pressure was extremely high. Over 160, over 100. So my husband calls 911 and sends me to they send me to the emergency room by me. They do all these tests. They're checking for everything, because I'm still postpartum at this point. I can be 4 months postpartum, checking me for everything, check my blood for everything. They did ultrasounds and everything, just making sure that they didn't miss anything from just my pregnancy alone, just make sure I didn't have any complications. And in that, they get my blood back and they say, hey, I think your doctor should check your thyroid. It actually looks pretty high. When I left that emergency room, which they did keep me overnight, they said that they had to give me a lot of electrolytes, just had me on IVs, giving potassium. They found out that my electrolytes were extremely low, like depleted. And they just wrote it off as, oh, you were just dehydrated. So I'm like, okay, dehydration, I can drink more water, but I would feel so weird when I got home. I would drink water easily at this point. They said I'm dehydrated. I'm never trying to go back to the emergency room again. I just want to be home with my baby. And I'm drinking easily 2 gallons of water a day. I'm eating around the clock. I am eating over 2,000 calories a day, maybe even 4,000 at this particular point in time. 2 gallons of water a day, and it's as if my body can't get enough. Like, I can internally feel it crashing. I feel these like waves going on in my brain, just feeling like I'm always on a break of like not being okay, you know. And everyone's like, oh, it's the stress from the baby, it's this, it's that. And I knew it wasn't. I just couldn't put my finger on it. So I go to my thyroid doctor, and he's like, hey, you have postpartum hyperthyroidism. I did not know what that was. Apparently, a very small percentage of people, women, can get this condition that kind of just comes and goes. I guess it's one of the things that can just happen postpartum. It goes away. But, of course, I didn't know that. And while they were trying to fix my medication, take me off medication or whatever, my body kept on keeping me in this hyper state, even with the decrease of my medication. And I would have tremors. My hands are shaking. My heart is always palpitating. I feel anxious mentally all of the time. All of the time. To the point where and mind you, I'm home with the baby by myself, because my husband and supports are coming around when they can, but it's not all the time. Now, being with my baby, best thing, but feeling sick all the time, the worst thing. That is your first kid, you know, and you're just trying to just get through the day, and you just can't. You literally just cannot get through the day. So fine. I'm sick. My hands are literally shaking. I'm literally experiencing anxiety. My heart is always palpitating. It always feels like it's coming out of my chest. I always feel weak. I literally cannot eat enough food to sustain. I'm literally not able to drink enough water to sustain. And the reason why I said the breastfeeding part was important, because when you have hyperthyroidism, your metabolism is on 100. So you ever seen The Flash, that first season, when he found out that he had his powers? And he's just moving. And he has to like overcompensate with food to keep up with metabolism and his speed. Yeah, that was me, just with the hyperthyroid. And anybody who's a breastfeeding mom also knows that when you breastfeed, you also have to eat and drink more, because your body is literally producing for this baby. Now, this is the thing. Funny enough, I made enough milk. I made more than enough milk. I was making 6 ounces per boob from day one. The issue I was having was my body was literally making sure I had milk and nutrients for my baby without the regards of myself. And in her drinking from me and taking from me, all of my nutrients were going to her, even with me taking extra pills for medicine, extra food intake, extra water intake. My metabolism and body function was just so high. It was terrible. And then I lost so much weight, which I guess for most people would be a great thing, but everyone knows that there's a weight where you start to look sick. And I reached it. I went from 175 pounds, when that's the way I was when I had my baby, post baby, easily maybe like 160 to 120 pounds. And I literally could not keep the weight on. The weight just kept on shedding. I now don't like how I look. Insecurities on high. Just trying to still function with the anxiety and everything, with a newborn, being a new mom, also a new wife, because I just recently got married in the midst of it, and just feeling like a failure at life. Just all of it. Just throw the whole bag away. And feeling alone, because no one that I knew went through anything like this, of just always feeling sick after having a baby, let alone feeling anxious after having a baby. To the point where they didn't, because my anxiety wasn't about the baby itself, I wasn't diagnosed with postpartum anxiety, but your body was very anxious, and it happened during my postpartum period. Prior to, I never experienced this before, but afterwards, I can't get my thoughts together. I can't even get my body to react and be calm and be still on its own. So I digress. I decide around November I'm going to the hospital every but so often because of heart palpitations, having too little bit of nutrients in my body, so I always have to get constant IVs. And it came to the point where I had to stop breastfeeding my baby. Like, something had to give. My doctor is doing the best he can in case of trying to change my dosage out, but I was still so symptomatic and so sick, and my body was doing everything to make sure that this baby had, and really just, like I said, sacrificing myself and my own well-being in it, that I had to make the decision that I cannot breastfeed her anymore, because it's literally pulling everything from me in order to do this, as well as just my metabolism doing its own thing and me not being able to control it. So I breastfed her until I was about 6 months. That was our last doctor's appointment we made, but of course there's not that much breastfeeding support groups out there. So when I did stop breastfeeding her, I didn't realize I didn't know the rules to breastfeeding. I weaned her off within about a week's time, was still pumping the second week, and kind of slowed down my pumping by the time I got to the third, fourth week. But my withdrawals from breastfeeding was terrible. Migraines, heart palpitations on top of the ones I was already having, just heaviness right here. I don't know if I mentioned, my blood pressure was high literally this whole entire time. So now I'm having high blood pressure issues. It already makes it very heavy here, on top of the withdrawal symptoms that you get from this. And in this withdrawal period, I'm also having anxiety and depression all within the same day. The darkest thoughts I've ever had about life. The most anxious thoughts I've ever had about the darkest thoughts. It was a terrible cycle. And not to mention my birthday weekend. Like, can't even enjoy a new year into living with my baby. I digress. So my doctor's trying to change the medication. My body's trying to play catch up. It's playing psychs with the thyroid medication. I went from hyper, and at this point in November, I started to go into hypo. So my body is now not overproducing any hormones. So now he has to up my dosage again. He ups my dosage. I'm actually past my dosage than I was at then, but it takes a while for the medication to kick in, for one, and it takes a while for your body to respond. Now, the medication could be in there. If we did the blood work, we can see that you are in line, but it takes a while for the body to quiet down, to regulate, to just allow you just to be productive again in the world. So, of course, I didn't work. There's no way I can work underneath these circumstances in this, which I know is super grateful for, being able to say, I just can't, which was not my plan, but I literally cannot do it. I already feel alone in this journey. I already don't have all the support that I possibly need in order for me to do more. This is it. This is the max. This is the limit I have. And in that, today being February, it's March now. I am still hypo more than, so my prescription prior to was like 112 milligrams of the Synthroid. Now I'm on 125. My doctor said, according to just how this, what they call a thyroid storm, postpartum cycle looks, is that your body goes into hyper, which is that terrible time I told you about, into hypo, which is where I'm at now, into some form of norm. And my body's norm with medication was on 112. Now I'm on 125. I've been on 125 for a long time. My body has been able to kind of just stay regulated within that time frame for about 2 to 3 months now, and it has just started to calm down. My baby is about to be 10 months, and I just got to the point where my body is calmer and is able to interact with people, and I'm able to have fun, and I'm able to worry less. And my blood pressure is something I still have to check because it was so affected at that time. That's like one of the last things that my body is still trying to reconcile. So I still have to check it. I'm on like a low sodium, no sodium situation, just trying to help it along. I started to work out because I wasn't able to do that at all during the postpartum because I just felt ill. If anyone has had thyroid issues, you know, you just feel sick. There's no other way to mention it. Your body you just don't feel well. Everything on the cellular level is just terrible. So I finally got to the point where I can do you know, I can participate in life and have friends and go out. I still experience some form of anxiety. I think at this point it may just be due to just so long of medical stuff that was going on with me that is a little bit, this is not a DSM-5 word, but like a little bit of a medical anxiety of just things going wrong. But I'm coming out of that. I'm coming out of that slowly but surely. The more I do stuff outside, the more I start to travel on my own, the longer time it is from the time I was just so sick and just not well from having my baby. But overall, it has been rough. It has been rough. Okay, there's literally no other words about it, no other ways about it. It's been rough, to say the least. But I'm still coming to the other side. I'm almost fully there. At least I'm gonna keep on telling myself that, like, I will be okay. But it was tough, and I wish that I could have found someone who was going through what I was going through. As someone who was already diagnosed with thyroid dysfunctions anyway, but to be pregnant and to go so smooth, don't need no medication changes, nothing, to your body fully being on the fritz. When they say a thyroid storm, it was storming. The storm, I was in it. Between the depression, the anxiety, the literally it was terrible. So I have a little trauma attached to that. But whoever is going through it, with it, I just want you to know that you are not by yourself. At least you are not the only person that has that